Hello and welcome to today's video. I'm very excited for today's video, partly because I'm kind of calling myself out in today's video. So today's video is going to be the topic of what is good use. So I don't know if you're familiar with this, but here on YouTube, we like to say good use a lot. I know I do. I say it a ton. I say it probably in every Shop My Stash or a review of Shop My Stash, like, oh, I got good use out of this palette. I got good use. I really got good use out of this. And I think we say that and we don't really know what it means. Especially in declutters. Again, you go look at declutters and I guarantee you people are opening up these beautiful palettes. They look almost untouched and people say, oh, I got really good use out of this palette. But what does that mean? Obviously, it's highly subjective. It means different things to different people. And I am trying to challenge myself on that a little bit in terms of, I get that my definition will be different from someone else's definition, but I want to nudge myself towards a more objective view of what good use is. So to preface this, I think mostly I use the term good use with my eyeshadow palettes because I have 32 eyeshadow palettes. I know that because of my recent inventory, and I can link that below too if you're interested in seeing that. So I have 32 eyeshadow palettes, but here is a breakdown of numbers that starts to make me uncomfortable. So obviously there are 365 days in a year. Well, 365 and 32 doesn't seem all that overwhelming, right? Like, oh, you can use 32 palettes in 365 days. Sure, that's not an issue. But then let's think about it this way. There are 12 months in a year. Well, that makes me a little bit more uncomfortable because I have 32 palettes, meaning that I can't even use 2 palettes a month. And, you know, I need to use more than 2 palettes a month to use all of my palettes in 12 months. That makes me uncomfortable. Now let's think about it this way. There are 52 weeks in a year. Well, again, I have 32 palettes. That leaves me 20 weeks to play with other palettes. That doesn't necessarily make me feel great in terms of I spent a lot of money on these palettes. They're things that I really cherish and enjoy, and using them for 1, maybe 2 weeks out of the year and then not using them for another, year until, the next year comes up and I use it 2, maybe 3 weeks, like that makes me uneasy because that to me, when I break down the numbers that way, that doesn't feel like good use. What does that mean at that point? Like if I used it 1 to 2 weeks out of the year, that's not good use, but yet I've been telling myself all along that I got good use out of this product when I didn't. So I want to figure out for myself, what is good use? What in the heck does that mean? For example, another way someone could break this down too, if they wanted to, could be based off of price. We're going to talk about my friend Norvina here. Norvina was a birthday gift to myself last year, right around the time, it was actually right before, like literally a week or 2 before we moved to Sweden. And so she sat in her beautiful box and flew across the ocean to Sweden, and in August we moved here in the middle of August, and then we spent a week kind of unpacking, figuring out what the heck we were doing, where's the grocery store, where do we find bar soap, like how do I even get my sleep schedule on track? Well, that took longer than a week. But then at the end of August, I finally got to break her out, and I think the first time I wore this was on my actual birthday. I think that the first time I wore this was actually on my birthday celebration, which was like the weekend after my birthday because I was sick on my birthday. So I finally got to break this beauty out and wear her one time in August. And then I started my Shop My Stash series in September last year, and I put this palette into my Shop My Stash. Along with this palette, I also put in my Anastasia So Culture palette and my Modern Renaissance palette. Those were, I thought, 3 palettes to play with over the month. There are 4 weeks in a month usually. It'll be fine. I'll enjoy this. This will get such good use in my Shop My Stash in September, and I actually believe that I said it in my recap video, like, oh yeah, I got some good use out of this. Well, lucky me, I'm a note keeper, and I hold on to everything. So I have my notes here from when I did my Shop My Stash in September, and I have it. I used this palette 9 times in September. I used it 9 times. 9 times. That's what I deemed good use. And I loved this palette. I remember raving about it in my recap video, thinking, oh, I really enjoyed using this palette. I'm gonna use it again soon. Well, October came and I put in a bunch of warm palettes like a 3502, and I used other palettes, and then November came and I wanted to pick Subculture back up because it's so fall appropriate, and then December came and we were traveling home for Christmas, and then here we are in January and I haven't used this palette again since I bought it. So in 2018 I spent $42 on this. Then I used it 9 times. Well, 10 times if you count my one birthday use. I used it 10 times, and I even have the breakdown of how many shadows. I did end up using all of the shades in the palette, and some of them I used more than once, but most of them, 1, 2, 3, yeah, half of them I used one time, and then a couple of them, more of these like transition shades, I used more than once. But most of the shimmers got used once, maybe 2, maybe 3 times max, and I called that good use. And so again, this is me. I want to kick myself in the butt right now because I know that I have procured so much that I am fooling myself into thinking that I'm getting good use out of it, but it's relative, and it's not the kind of relative that makes me satisfied or happy. So let's break this down money-wise. Like, let's say that maybe I wanted to nudge myself in the direction of, well, maybe a more objective way to look at good use is the number. I know Too Much Tosh here on YouTube. She does a lot of breakdowns of this product took me this many times to use up, and that roughly makes this product cost me X amount of money per use. Well, let's do that with this guy. So this palette retails for $42. And if I wanted to pay $1 every time that I've used this palette, every time I do my eyeshadow, I need to use this 42 times, right? $42. I need to use it 42 times to get the price down to $1 a use. Well, I'm a penny pincher. And so to me, the thought of paying someone $1 on one day to wear my eyeshadow, and then, you know, however much the rest of my face makeup costs, $1 isn't quite good enough for me. For me to get this palette to cost me 50 cents every time that I use it, that is going to take 84 uses. 84 uses. 25 cents, 168 uses. Okay, that's a lot. Now, you probably wouldn't want to get it to 168 uses in 1 year because that would be, you would only probably be using this palette and maybe one more palette for a whole year to get that many uses, because again, there are 365 days. And then sometimes we may not want to wear makeup, and it's too much. Let's say that I wanted to get this palette to 10 cents per use. 10 cents per use is 429 uses out of a palette. That's out of a palette that costs you $42. I realize that is also an extreme that I probably will never reach. But I want to challenge myself in 2019 to figure out more of what good use and what does that mean to me. And the only way that I know to do that is to spend 2019 kind of studying my use of palettes. And so I kind of plan that in this new year, I'm starting, and every week I want to use a new palette for a little while. And I have a couple of palettes that I bought and I haven't even touched yet. Like I have Sultry, I have Dose of Colors Vacation, the Juvia's Place, the Saharan palette. I haven't even used some of those yet. And so I want to spend some time in the beginning of this year using palettes and getting acquainted with them a little bit more, try to use all the shades in them. And then, you know, come midway in the year, I want to kind of check in with myself and start letting myself use the ones that I'm drawn to. And more than anything, I have a little book here, and I have all my palettes written out in, I tried to keep them true to layout just because when I go back to track which ones I use, it will be easier for me to like put a tick mark down. But I plan to keep track of how many times I reach for a palette this year and how many uses I got out of them, and did I even use all the colors out of them. And I kind of just want to see if I learned something through this process and learn more about what good use might mean to me. Now, in the comments, let me know what you think good use is, because I'm so freaking curious of how we use this term all the time, but we don't really have a standard for what it means. And I'm dying to know what it is for you, or if you have an idea of what's good use. I need to figure this out. So 2019 is kind of my mission to figure out what good use is for me. But if you have any ideas about it or have any questions that might drive me to help figure out what good use actually means, then please leave it in the comments section below. So that's it for this rambly, crazy video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope maybe it got you thinking, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.